All right, Budget 2017 is indeed upon us. From India Inc. to economists to market experts, everybody has their wish list for this budget ready. But what exactly do students, do people who still reside in the campuses of this country want? And that's exactly why I'm here to figure that out. I'm here at SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, but I have with me a bunch of MBA students and their professor sitting here. Their class, in fact, they have an exam to go to, in about a couple of hours from now, and they're here in conversation with ET Now, and they'll be telling us what they expect from Budget 2017. Keep in mind, Budget 2017 has a lot of context to it, a lot of backstory even as it arrives. Let's see what they want from it. I'm going to start with the Professor Tulsi ma'am. I'm going to simply ask you, what would be your expectations, top, say, if I were to ask you the number one expectation from Budget 2017?
So, firstly, I'm really glad that we're getting rid of a colonial legacy, where we're moving away from the date of, the February 28th or the March 1st kind of a date. And we're looking at a new date altogether. Whether that's really going to fructify, we'll have to wait and watch. Cool. But having said that, we've gone through a demonetization. What I would want to see is that the government really kind of increase the pain, so to speak, by seeing this policy through, because any attempt at trying to mitigate the pain through certain populist measures will lead to the kind of effects which will be far longer lasting, having greater ramifications. So on that note, I think that's what I would want to kick off.
All right, I didn't have to bring the topic up, did I? Demonetization. I didn't have to bring that up. Right there, you've got Budget 2017. Immediately, the next term that we think of is demonetization. There's another term called GST. We will get to that in a bit. But let's talk about the one thing that's on top of mind of everybody. Every single time we step into an ATM in this country, demonetization. Talk to us, on the back of demonetization, Budget 2017, what do you think budget needs to do?
Demonetization has been a challenge lately because, as you said rightly, the ATMs are a nightmare to go to. But then what we do expect is something good comes out of it. We've borne with the government of the pains. So maybe we look at a lower income tax when we step out of the college.
Lower income tax.
So that's
lower income tax is not just demonetization impact. It's just every single time there's a budget, we just want a lower income tax. All right, lower income tax. Anybody else?
Yeah, so we just looked at the urban context in terms of the ATM, but there's a lot of sectors which are also suffering because of this demonetization. There are sectors like SMEs, agricultural sectors, which are very cash dependent. So those sectors are seriously suffering in terms of that. So if we could do something in terms of that, so that the system gets improved, so that would be very helpful for the rural sector as well as the urban sector.
Very important that budget has something in it for the rural sector. There is one opinion coming over here. Please go ahead.
Right. So as he mentioned, I think India is still a largely cash-based economy, and this demonetization is a great incentive for us to reinstate some of the infrastructure towards digital and cashless transactions.
Fair enough. But what do you want Budget 2017 to do about it?
I think, as Tulsi ma'am mentioned, increasing the SOPs towards digital transactions will help only to a certain extent. But the sooner you actually get through the entire process of bringing the entire cash back into the market is something that will ease everybody's pain.
So remonetization is going to be a key, and you will expect an announcement on the remonetization front in Budget 2017. You want to say something?
Like ma'am said, we have moved away from a colonial rule, and now we have decided to merge the railway and as well as the union budget. So Arun Jaitley this year is going to play a dual role. And we have seen a lot of SOPs in past railway budgets that have been announced for the public at large. This year, we would like to see that whatever expenditure has been done in railways, how are we going to improve the efficiency of railways? How are we going to go for high-speed railways?
So this is a very specific railway budget expectations. Although it's going to be clubbed, what are we going to be doing on the railway front? How do we improve the efficiency of railways?
Yes.
All right.
The 31st December announcement by Mr. Modi was a populist announcement where they talked about farmers and elders. That's good, that's all good. But then the middle class, the urban middle class is always forgotten in the whole of this. And also the fact, just another point, the corporate taxes need to be lowered because right now it's not really a conducive environment for industries to flourish in India. So that's something.
You're talking like somebody from India, and corporate taxes need to be lowered.
Yes, because how do we find jobs otherwise?
So that your pay packages can increase, corporate taxes lower. Tulsi ma'am wants to say something.
So I would completely go with what you're saying, because we have probably the highest corporate income tax rates in the world. right? And so it really needs to come down. If you're looking at some of the other countries, you're looking at a 15 to 16% kind of a corporate tax rate. Exemptions need to go, but the corporate tax rates need to come down, and more so because if you look at the latest data which the government has published, your investment has really stagnated or even gone down, and you cannot have growth. Forget the classroom, but I think it's common sense that you cannot have growth without investment happening. And you need to do something to boost the household savings. So I am all for giving a higher income tax slab so that the salaried class actually save money, increase the tax base, get the agriculturists, since you've started off on such a good note with the demonetization, just go one step further to show that you really mean business and get the agriculturists to start paying taxes, or every one of us who pose as agriculturists to start paying taxes. And I'm sure that would be half the problem solved.
Everyone who poses as an agriculturist needs to start paying tax.
So we need to make it a little spicier.
The government can use this opportunity to have a simplified tax regime. The main idea of bringing this GST was to have a unified tax.
I think you just got the word out of everybody's heads, including me. That is GST. GST is a crucial point.
Yeah.
Consensus on GST is a daily headline that we do here on TV news channels and newspapers as well. First of all, do you think the GST is going to meet its April 2017 deadline?
I don't think so. Like it's gonna meet the deadline because like the implementation part and a lot of still we have many bills which are pending to be passed. And above all, the main crux of the idea was like to have a single unified rate, but they are again in the form of like diluting those rates by separating the sectors. So this is one opportunity where the government has the population confidence and they can go for a single rate.
We have been mentioning about the unorganized sector every now and then, but when we are talking about the digital inclusion and every tax SOPs for all the thing who are paying the tax, but we are expecting something like how to make the unorganized sector in an organizable way that actually helps give the more digital inclusion and also for the farmers and all to have some confidence on the banks.
But what do you expect Mr. Jaitley to do with Budget 2017 on that front? Anything specific that you're looking for?
Maybe tax SOPs for those who want to get into this, start paying the tax in the first time or something like this, such that
they're already doing. I want to stop everything and ask this point in time. There's a lot of these social media memes doing the rounds about most of what Budget 17 needs to, FM Jaitley had to do. PM Modi himself did it as part of the demonetization drive. Really not much, because we're talking about increasing SOPs for digital transactions, which is already announced. We're talking about income tax disclosure windows, which is already there. In that sense, do you think a lot of it has been said by PM Modi himself already and very little left for Budget 2017 to figure out?
Actually, what I have to suggest might not be followed through. It is actually...
That applies to all of us over here. So go for it.
The reason actually why I said that was because I think the government has to roll back on demonetization. The biggest stimulus the government can give the unorganized sector is cash. Cash has turned out to be made into an evil thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that has to be, taken out of context again, as in taken care of. So,
okay.
Yeah.
As in you're saying that the remonetization process needs to bring in more cash into the system than what the government says. Because the government has been insisting that, yes, there will be money, cash plowed back into the system, but not as much as it used to be before, because we want people to use less cash. So what are you saying? You're saying that there needs to be more than what the government has said?
Yeah, actually, as in I remember this was probably your newspaper only. There was this old man crying outside an ATM. So the thing is, you cannot incentivize this. That guy, he's not going to, because of incentives, he's not going to start using
Basically, don't treat cash as an evil. If at all any lessons you have learned from the demonetization drive is that black money is evil, cash is not evil.
If Mr. Prime Minister is anything to go by, he's a man of radical changes.
Okay.
So just to relate to an incident that happened sometime back in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, the failure of monsoons and the water issue, which was a burning affair for like decades
You're talking
now.
about the Kaveri issue.
Yes, Kaveri issue. So I would expect Mr. Modi to come out with a radical announcement that could actually benefit the farmers in the long run. I mean, the demonetization, nobody saw it coming. It was out of the blue.
Yeah.
And still we are putting up with it. And if that can be done, I'm sure something can be done for the water crisis.
Okay. If this government and if the Prime Minister is all about radical moves, how about some radical moves to improve agriculture in this country, to improve the lives of farmers in this country. All right, interesting, interesting. It is the time of radical change. It's not wrong to expect radical changes when it comes to budget 2017. Another point of view.
Right. So we expect a lot of, the tax rates to be lower. We expect a lot of money coming back to in our hands. I think one other thing that I would really hope for is, increase the coverage of the tax-paying population, right? So right now, I think a lot of it is, as you mentioned, middle-class, salaried people who are expecting SOPs, who are expecting...
Every single time,
Right,
isn't it? Every single time.
Right. So it's probably the case of the classic Pareto rule, 80% and 20%, right? So I would probably hope that the tax coverage is probably more sometimes.
And the demonetization is supposed to do that, right? It's supposed to increase the number of people who come under the tax base.
Right.
That's what Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has been saying so many times. Don't look at this as a problem. This is going to expand the tax base. Here's hoping that there is some, improvement on that front. You wanted to say something?
The railway budget, in which they have introduced the concept of the bullet trains. Now, the bullet trains is something which is not relevant as of now in a country which has a lot of population
All right.
below poverty line. So instead of focusing on this, they should try and focus on improving the railways infrastructure, which is in shabby state, and improve the safety provisions, because we have recently saw two bad incidents happening, and which has a lot of impact. So I would like to, Mr. Modi focus on these also, along with Mr. Jaitley.
It's so interesting. First of all, as Tulsi started out by saying that, for the first time, we're letting go of this colonial legacy, merging these two budgets together. And I thought nobody would be thinking about the rail budget. But here we are. There are specific expectations from the rail budget. Very good to know that. Please go for it.
Yeah, this is my personal opinion based on the demonetization. So what has happened is demonetization has brought in money in the banking system. But India primarily remains as a cash economy.
True.
And if the government's Digital India initiative and demonetization have to go hand in hand, we have to create digital literacy in rural India. That is very much of great importance. So what we have to do is, I would expect Arun Jaitley in his budget speech, now that SOPs have been announced for 31st, that such incentives are there for digital economy. But what are we going to actually do to translate those SOPs into implementable measures on ground? Maybe setting up of community centers in the rural areas so that we can train people who are not aware of how digital economy works.
And also, hence, what budget 2017, what kind of outlay is going to be there to create digital literacy in the country? That's a very key point. There's a lot of talk about increased spending on this front, increased spending on that front. Everything is increased, like healthcare, defense. You're talking about everything where you want to increase the government spending, create more jobs, etc., etc. And there is also the question of fiscal prudence. That is very crucial for Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, this particular government, and this particular stage in the Indian economy, that we stick to the fiscal prudence path. And we just had RBI Governor Urjit Patel talk about how the general debt of Indian government has been so high, and that's been hurting India's credit ratings. As far as fiscal prudence goes, ma'am, if you can tell us, what would you expect from budget 2017?
So again, just to go back and say that this entire debate on fiscal prudence should not just boil down to looking at the fiscal deficit, all right? Because it's the fiscal deficit which is that glamour figure that one looks at. Is it 3? Is it 3.5?
Yeah.
Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? In all likelihood, there are voices which are saying that we do not need to have a number like a 3 to 3.5% to stick to, especially in this kind of a scenario where people are hurting, so it would do good to kind of go out and spend some money. I have 2 points to make on that.
Yeah.
Now, one is that stop worrying so much about the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit per se is not bad. Just as we said, cash is not bad. Fiscal deficit is not bad. What you need to do really is to stick to the golden rule, which is that of the revenue deficit. All right? Try and bring it down to 0%. Because revenue deficit really tells you what's happening with the economy, what's happening with the savings of the economy. That's one kind of an aspect. The second kind of an aspect that we're looking at is this 3 to 3.5, the 3 number of 3 or 3.5. You need to start moving towards a range for the fiscal deficit. You need to start moving towards not just hard numbers, right? So try and move towards a range. Pay attention to the revenue deficit. Do not give up on fiscal prudence. Okay, because at the end of the day, if you do not have fiscal prudence, there's nothing about making a budget. What is a budget at the end of the day? It's about putting down your expenditures, it's about putting down your revenues, and if you don't need to match the two, and if you just need to borrow, then where is the question of having a budget in the first place? right? So fiscal prudence should be absolutely sacrosanct. You cannot have a budget which becomes expansionary on account of demonetization. And as I was discussing in one of the classes, the 2008 financial crisis saw us getting into an expansionary fiscal and an expansionary monetary policy, which led to the inflation that we lived with until we had monetary policy coming in. And fiscal and monetary policy are interrelated. So whatever you do on the fisc is going to affect your monetary policy. Your interest rates will go up. Corporate investments already suffering. Corporate investments go down as a result of that. And you have this cycle, vicious cycle, which you will want to avoid through fiscal prudence.
So, would you then say that when it comes to budget 2017, keeping in mind what has happened from 2008 onwards till now, and with demonetization, so many other factors affecting it, fiscal prudence will be Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's, should be Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's top priority?
It should be. Whether it would be, time would say.
Okay,
it should be.
Amongst
it
all
should
things,
be.
amongst all things,
it should be.
Fiscal prudence
it should
is the top
be.
priority.
It should be. So your 3 to 3.5% is acceptable.
Yeah.
Getting it over 3.5%, because remember that this is only the central deficit we are speaking about. There is an additional deficit of the states.
Yes.
So your overall deficit goes out to about 6%.
Yeah.
We have something like a 60% debt to GDP ratio.
Yeah.
And that going up is not really going to do much.
Anything
And a huge amount of a huge amount of interest payments as your fiscal deficit shoots up. So as your fiscal deficit goes up on account of demonetization, your next budget is going to have an increase in the interest payments on account of the debt that you have really gone into.
All right, so demonetization or not, fiscal prudence has to be the top priority. Anybody else wants to add to that?
Another point, I'm just looking at how the government is going to satisfy the opposition so that the parliament house runs smoothly.
That's a serious question, right? The way the parliament has been functioning over the last winter session, and now you have the budget session, and how the parliament is going to function, how is the budget going to be presented? That's a big question mark. Is there a big question mark on top of all of your heads right now?
The budget will have to be presented irrespective of their differences. They will have to find a way out.
Just wanted to comment on the timing and the fight regarding the timing of the budget announcement. It's kind of cute that they're trying to do it just before the UP elections, and they haven't announced.
Did you say kind of cute?
Yeah, it's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute that they would do it before the UP elections.
Yeah, because they didn't come
Cute.
up. Yeah,
That word is not, that word is not going to go down well with a lot of people. All right, it's kind of cute that the government is trying to do this.
so
just
they
before the
haven't
UP
they
elections.
haven't announced a candidate as such. The people speculating about who is going to be the BJP candidate, and
The candidate for the UP elections?
Yes.
I meant for the budget. I thought we were talking about the budget.
No.
No, kidding.
So it's the timing of all of this kind of seems to be a little.
Anybody else think so? Anybody else think so? The timing of all of this seems to be a little iffy, and that includes the timing of the demonetization drive as well, I'm guessing. All right.
I have.
You have a point. Please go ahead.
I have a point. So, the government is planning for this budget before UP elections and all those things only because they are trying to get the confidence of lower house and upper house to get certain things passed. But in the upper house, it is not possible because of their minority. So. They might feel that they can give us some populist budget and get some vote bank from these elections, and so that they can get majority in the upper house and they can push the reforms forward. So that's what I feel.
So the word iffy is being simplified and explained by you. That's what we mean by iffy about the timing of it all.
Well, one good thing that has happened because of merging of two budgets is saving in expenses. Because two different budgets incurred a lot of expenditure, so they have saved on that. Secondly, Prime Minister Modi has made an important point of merging elections and holding them at one time. Assembly as well as the Lok Sabha elections. But we have a very complicated political structure. So I don't know how they are going to actually implement it. But it will be interesting to know if in the budget such provisions or some discussion in the budget session is done as to how we can go ahead. Because this is a very good reform if it happens in the political system of India. If such a reform happens, it will be very good. And it will also cut down the political expenditures.
All right.
No, I'm just hoping that this preponing of the budget doesn't jinx the government for the second time, because we all know what happened the last time when the elections were preponed. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed.
All right. For the government, you say. Okay.
I would like to contradict from this point. Like the main objective of preponing this budget from February end to February beginning was like the budget which gets planned. While the time it gets approved, the month of April has already been passed.
True.
So the government is setting a target to get the finance bill passed before the onset of the financial year. So in addition to the budget, what they present, there should be more stricter laws for the bureaucracy to implement those budget on the paper. So most of the time we see at the end, we do not have the expenditure, we have the budgets on paper. So this is one of the things which the government should ensure that it gets implemented smoothly throughout the year. Like whatever budget is being planned and gets passed out before
Fantastic
April.
point. The whole point of advancing the budget is that starting 1st of April, as in starting the 31st of March 2017, the plans for the next financial year onwards gets implemented. So if you're going to prepone the budget and keep it on the 1st of February, then that means that we want to see action starting the 1st of April 2017, and the implementation of this budget is going to be very, very crucial to make sure the whole point of preponing it does not go away. You want to say something? Go for it.
No, I was just wanted to add on a lighter note. I have a request with to Mr. Jaitley that
Please go ahead and make it.
please do not give us any more surprises, like such as demonetization. We are not in a position to take it anymore.
So the point is that one is don't give us surprises, and the other is the same. At the same time, if you can bring in radical changes, you should be bringing radical changes. I'm going to end this by asking, or just across the board, how many of you here, by show of hands, think that we will see GST in the year 2017? Forget the April deadline. In the year 2017, we are going to see GST. Okay, one person no. Okay, still, okay, 95% of them agree that. How many of you think that the April 1st, 2017 deadline will be met by the government for the GST? Okay, nobody. So, okay, there is going to be a delayed implementation of GST is what we're looking at. I'm going to end by asking one last question. If there's one announcement, one radical announcement. See, we are in the times of radical change, as somebody pointed out. If there's one radical announcement that you personally would want to see for your own self, forget about the economy at large, the people at large. What is my personal budget expectation, like something that affects my life that I want to see changed? One.
Just that you've asked one, I really want to see the affordable housing coming into the picture when the budget is taking place, because now when we come out, we need to look at that, and we really expect the budget.
Okay, affordable housing. Anybody else? Quickly.
I would like to see like the education loan, the interest rate should be like...
The interest rates of all loans need to go down.
Should be all gone.
Our education loan in specific needs to go down. Okay, ma'am, one specific thing that you would want from the budget for yourself?
No, I don't want anything for myself. I would definitely want to see some agricultural income being taxed. I think that's something I would want to see in my lifetime.
She started off by saying that. You want to have one particular expectation of the budget?
The point has been mentioned number of times before. We are going to go out of the college, and increasing the tax bracket, we'll be very happy with that.
Increase the income tax slabs.
Also, I would want to see more number of taxpayers for this, because obviously it would lessen the burden on the remaining people. So
more number of taxpayers, especially agriculturists. Anybody else has anything, one thing that has not been discussed, anything, one particular thing that you would want from this particular budget, the way we stand right now? Because as somebody just said, you're going to finish your studies.
Yeah, this is not going to be a very personal thing, but then if the pension income could not be taxed, that is somehow better.
Valid point, isn't
Not
it?
from my perspective, but then maybe from my parents.
Pension income does not need to be taxed is one important point. On that note, I'm going to thank all of you, the students of SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, and Professor Tulsi ma'am for taking time out in between your busy schedule of exams to be here on ET Now with all that you're expecting from Budget 2017. And with that, it's a wrap here on the show.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.